Welcome inside the park. I'm Barry Nelson along with Ryan Thies. Welcome to week number 2, Ryan, of Major League Baseball action. It's been an action-packed 2 weeks.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff this past week, too. We got things from walk-off home runs to Easter bunnies tackling presidents, so I can't wait to dig into that one.
We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about the NL and AL East with our MLB insider, Alfredo Muente, and then we're going to introduce a new segment to our show called Fair or Foul. We're going to talk a little bit about whether or not we think things are going to happen the way they should, and if they don't, why. So you want to stick around for that. But first of all, we want to talk about what happened in this past week. Saturday, a very, very special day in the lives of many baseball players. It was Jackie Robinson Day, and just kind of take us through what Jackie Robinson Day is all about and what it really means to you being the ultimate baseball fan that you are.
Well, it's just great to appreciate what Jackie Robinson did for the generations after him as far as baseball goes. Just thinking about how many different baseball stars maybe wouldn't be stars without the courage that Jackie Robinson had. It was great to see him get a statue outside of Dodger Stadium this year, and it's always nice to see all the players support him by wearing the number 42, showing really his importance. It's always a good time to watch the movie 42 again on April 15th, kind of just remember what the legacy he had and what he brought to the table. And it wasn't just that he was the first African-American player to make a major league team. He was really good. He was one of the best guys out on the field every time he took the field. So I believe that not just what he caused for future generations, but him just specifically as a player should be honored as well.
And it was just awesome. You see the statue right there and his iconic stealing of home back in 1947, and what an honor it was. His wife Rachel still around, actually able to be at the ceremony. There you see her and the rest of their family. Just what an honor. And I love the fact that everybody wears number 42 on that day, and that is universally a retired jersey. And I think more people should do that. I mean, I don't think there's another number in baseball maybe that should do that, but is there a number in basketball or football that should maybe do that?
If anything, I think it would be Michael Jordan's 23. But problem with that is it's one of the most common numbers in a basketball, and I think you can't be on the level of Jackie Robinson as much anymore. There's just so much that he did for the game of baseball and for the sports world as a whole that I think he belongs on a certain pedestal that other athletes I don't think have deserved to be that high yet.
That was on Saturday, and we want to wish all of you a very blessed Easter for those of you that celebrated Easter yesterday. Yesterday you had a lot of stuff going on, especially in Washington. First of all, you had Bryce Harper. Wow, what a game he had. A 3-run walk-off shot to end the game, and there was no doubt about that one. As we take a look at the video here, he just absolutely pummeled that one to dead center.
Yeah, he bailed out another bad bullpen performance from the Nationals again. So that's something they're going to have to figure out, but still good for them getting Bryce Harper another walk-off home run. Nice little pimp job right there, admiring his work. But, I mean, he can do that. He had a walk-off home run like that on a great day. Stands are packed there in Washington.
Can we say pimp job on the air?
Yeah, just did.
Okay, I like it.
It's a common term between if you played baseball. Is
it kind of like duck fart in baseball?
A little bit, yeah.
Or duck snort, I guess people would say. That wasn't the only thing that happened in Washington. Now, as you guys know, Washington has a similar 6th or 7th inning game that we have here in Milwaukee. Here we have the famous racing sausages. There they have the famous racing presidents. Well, in the past few years, on Easter Sunday, the Easter Bunny has come out and tormented these presidents.
Specifically Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt doesn't win. Teddy Roosevelt doesn't win at all, and now all of a sudden the Easter Bunny comes out and makes sure that Teddy Roosevelt doesn't win. And I was waiting for Jim Ross to come on and yell at this, oh, my God, just a spear out of nowhere. And he takes down Teddy Roosevelt, and that was one of the funniest, best Easter Sunday races that I've ever seen. Now, he did that back in 2014 where he came technically off the top rope, and he took out all 4 presidents at that time. Yeah. This one was only Teddy Roosevelt, but poor Teddy. He doesn't get to win a race.
Caught me off guard. You see the other presidents get tackled a little bit in less dramatic fashion, and you see him kind of running towards the finish line.
I'm going to win.
An open road, and all of a sudden, from the top rope, the Easter Bunny is just waiting for him to come.
That was just awesome. I haven't laughed so hard in my life. It was, and we did get a different kind of on-field perspective. Here you see kind of everybody coming onto the blue. This is like from front row. This isn't the TV camera. The other one was the TV camera. This is front row. Teddy's going right past you. Now here comes the Easter Bunny right there. Boom. Just knocks the button, knocks the ears off, and he just kind of stands over him like, yeah, I got you. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious when mascots kind of get into it. And there's huge mascot hits. There's always, every year NFL teams will have a little mascot football game against a Pee Wee team, and there's some just hard hits with the mascots. I remember a couple years ago, they're racing pierogies in Pittsburgh. Similar thing happened where the pierogi actually took out the Teddy Roosevelt in a Nationals race. Yeah,
Teddy
that's
can't
what it
catch
was.
a break.
No,
Teddy cannot catch a break.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, but besides all that stuff that happened on Saturday and Sunday, man, it's been a week full of surprises. Last week was just, who's starting out hot, who's not. And now all of a sudden this week it's who's going to be landing on the DL.
Yeah,
you have so many guys landing on the DL. Zach Britton, the closing pitcher from Baltimore. Jarrett Parker, he ran into the wall, man, made a spectacular catch. Unfortunately for him, he broke his clavicle. Aaron Sanchez, Brandon Finnegan, who's the 4th Red starter to hit the DL. Marcus Simeon, Jackie Bradley Jr.
Rich Hill today.
Hill, and also Kendall Graveman. He's also looking at an extended stint on the DL as well. And it's just like, oh my God. Second week of the season. They had spring training. They had all this time to get ready, and all of a sudden they're breaking down. Is that just a matter of wear and tear, or is there something actually wrong?
No, it's more luck too. If you see the Jarrett Parker catch too, there's no way you can, unless
that's freakish.
Yeah, that's you can't really prevent that unless you want to be a lazy player.
Right.
So
it's an amazing
catch. Yeah, you can't blame him for that. Different thing. Rich Hill, I think that's more wear and tear because he's starting to just get finger blisters, and he couldn't finish his start yesterday against the Diamondbacks at home. And so that put him back on the DL. The second time this year he's been on the 10-day.
Right.
But I think for the other players, it's just a little more precautionary rather than if it was at the end of the season where they would just sit him and wait for him to come back fully. Now they can utilize that 10-day DL. They can utilize the 15-day DL because they have more people they can call up. It's not as an important time. So I think their thinking is if they're going to go in the DL, might as well do it second week of the season rather than in a tight playoff race when they're really needed.
And I know it's early in the season, but you kind of have a twilight zone here, kind of a next dimensional type of thing with these standings. You take a look at some of these divisions. Last year in the AL Central, it was Cleveland and Kansas City on the top with Detroit and then Minnesota and Chicago. All of a sudden, it's Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago, and look who's on the bottom. It's Cleveland. Yep. Now, I know it's early in the season. I've prefaced that already, and it's probably going to get turned around.
They're missing Jason Kipnis, too. That hurts.
Right. And you take a look at some of these other divisions. You look at the NL Central. Last year it was Cincinnati, then Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Chicago. Now all of a sudden it's Cincinnati, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Chicago, St. Louis. Chicago's scuffling. They're playing the Brewers in a 3-game series coming up here in the next 3 days.
Fresh off a sweep, too.
Fresh off a sweep.
At home.
And you were there.
I went there on Saturday.
Tell us your story about – you had an interesting – you went on the day they gave away the
they gave
mini
away
trophies.
Replica World Series trophies, which was nice. It got in about 20 minutes before gates opened. Just barely got. There's a lot of people there wanting to get these trophies. I'm not really a Cubs fan. I just won the World Series trophy. Just say it's cool.
How much did you pay for a ticket, by the way? You got to tell them
about
this.
$80 for a ticket. Lower level, down first base line. It was kind of nice. Wind was blowing out. There's 7 home runs. That was fun. Chris Bryant hit one off one of the new scoreboards, so that was good.
But you didn't end up spending any money, did you?
No, not net, at least. Walking outside the stadium, someone asked to buy it for $140. that was my going price. So
you spent $80 on a ticket. You sell your little mini World Series replica for $140.
Piece of plastic. Cubs fans
crazy. Buy anything.
Oh yeah.
My God, I was hoping to have that thing right on the right on here, along with your picture of the autographed picture of the chicken. But
if you would have given me 140,
I was not going to give you 140.
Nope.
Maybe we could have taken that out of the budget, Baxter.
I do not blame you.
No. Okay, we don't have that in the budget either. So, but there are a lot of tight races in the major leagues. There is only one division that's actually separated by more than a game or a game and a half, and that is the AL West, where Houston is up 2.5 games on the LA Angels. Other than that, everything else is really, really tight. Mm-hmm. And that's what you love to see about this time of year. Nobody's really pulling away. Nobody has a really, really hot start. Everybody's kind of starting the same way, and it's going to be interesting to see how everybody kind of filters out.
Yeah, I think it's more fun that way. It's more fun to see the bottom feeders last year come up to the top. I like these divisions being flipped from last year. It gives it a fresh sense of watchability. It's not the same narrative over and over where the Cubs go off to a hot start and then just win the World Series. We got something new here. We got Reds playing decent baseball, Brewers playing real good baseball as well in that Central Division, and then in the AL Central, Twins coming out of nowhere, hitting some good home runs and having a great time at the plate, just having fun out there. They feel like, I think those teams at the bottom last year feel like they don't have as much to lose, and they're just having fun, while these other teams that were at the top last year have a different sense of pressure. And it's fun to see how both these teams are kind of responding to that.
And with that being said, we're going to talk a little bit about some specific divisions here. We're going to bring in Alfredo Muente, our MLB insider. He's joining us live via video chat. And where are you, Alfredo? You look like you're enjoying some sun. You're obviously not in Wisconsin.
No, you're not in Wisconsin, guys. We are here at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, so we're having a great time.
Wow. What brings you to Orlando, Florida at this time of year? I mean, is it just a family vacation?
Well, I live in the Tampa Bay area, so we're only about an hour and a half away from here, and I have season passes to Universal Studios, so we get a chance to come down here every once in a while, and that is Harry Potter World behind me, so we're enjoying it. We're having a great time here today.
It looks fantastic. Wish we were there, but if we can't be there, we might as well talk baseball, and that's what we want to do with you. Talking a little bit about the NL and AL Central. Let's talk about the NL and the AL East. Let's talk a little bit about the AL East first off. What is going on with the Toronto Blue Jays? My goodness, everybody expected them to come out of the gates. They were they were offensive leaders last year, and now all of a sudden this year they're bringing up the bottom of the barrel, not only just in the AL East but also in the entire major leagues at 2-10.
That's right, and that right now happens to be the worst record in the majors coming in. Nobody has that many losses, and of course just as few wins. But I think the biggest problems, when you ask me about, are two big things with them, and that would have to be the injuries like you talked about earlier, and of course their offensive production. As a team, they are batting an even 200. Right now the American League average is 237, so they're well below that. They are only scoring 2.5 runs per game. I know it's only been 12 games, but that is still very low for a team like Blue Jays that have that kind of firepower. And they've driven in just 29 runs, so their production has been low. Yes, the injuries have bitten them hard. Josh Donaldson, the former MVP, is on the disabled list. Aaron Sanchez, one of the guys in that rotation that has the best stuff, and also one of their better relievers in J.P. Howell. So those are the things that are problematic right now for that team.
Now, there was an article by Buster Olney on ESPN.com yesterday saying that if they don't get off to if they don't start playing better, they're going to have to break up this team. Now, how feasible is it, and what can they get for an injured Josh Donaldson, an injured now J.A. Happ, a Marco Estrada, Francisco Liriano? Who can they get, and can they really put this thing together?
I think they can, but it is what Buster Olney said. He's very true, and it's accurate, that they can't start making a sellout if the team doesn't start to perform well or if they get these guys healthy. But the problem with them is their age, too, and that's one of the reasons why they are having these injuries as well. You talk about Jay Happ. He's 34 years old, but he's making $13 million this year and making $13 million the next. So he is certainly a guy that has performed well since coming over from the Pirates. So that is an arm that's a veteran lefty in his mid-30s that the Blue Jays could deal at the trade deadline if need be. You talk about Francisco Liriano as well. The problem with him is his inconsistency. I mean, he could be Cy Young caliber one day and look like he's pitching a Double-A the next. So that's a problem from him. Eligible for free agency next year is Liriano. So is Marco Estrada, but you got to remember he's also 33 years old. You talked about Josh Donaldson. He is 31 years old, and you're right, he's out with that sore right calf muscle. That is something that has been sort of chronic for him. So I don't know if he would be a big trade piece for the Blue Jays. It's something that they might have to eat up, their big contract, and he is under control until 2018. You look at guys like Troy Tulowitzki, Jose Bautista. They're also getting very old and long in the tooth. And they are other guys that also have big contracts as well. So that's the problem with Toronto right now, that they would have to get a bad contract back in return if they want to give up any of these guys at the deadline.
Now, let's look at the top of the division now with the Baltimore Orioles. I don't know if they're really coming out of nowhere, but they're surprising some people here at the beginning, especially Trey Mancini. He had another 2 home runs last night. Chris Davis, he's always doing good, hitting some real good baseballs as well, and just all around. Even though Zach Britton just is going on the DL now, can the Orioles still kind of sustain their presence at the top?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, they play in a ballpark which is very conducive to hitting at Camden Yards, especially as the weather starts to turn a little warmer. But you talk about Trey Mancini, and everybody in Baltimore knows this guy. He was the 12th round, or an 8th round draft pick, out of Notre Dame. He's just 25 years old. He's been in the organization for a few years now, and he's a big dude. He's 6'4", roughly 250 pounds. He's out of Winter Haven, Florida, and he has set a rookie record by hitting a home run in 7 of his first 12 career games. The only other 2 players that have done that since 1913. Last year, of course, Trevor Story did it with the Rockies, and Dino Restelli back in 1969. So it doesn't happen very often, but Trey Mancini is in the middle of this lineup, and really I don't think anybody had him pegged to be a starter coming into this year, but he's really done well for Buck Showalter's team right now.
Just a reminder, if you want to ask Alfredo a question or you want to comment on this, please comment on our Facebook Live page. Tune into our YouTube page as well. We will see if we can get your questions on here for Alfredo. But Alfredo, a lot of people, especially in the past, have always seen the New York Yankees on the top of that standings list. Now this year they were technically going through a quote-unquote rebuilding year, but they see themselves towards the top of those standings once again. What's their secret, and will they try and add another piece or two to try and challenge the Red Sox and the Orioles?
Well, it's a very interesting question right there, because in the preseason, when I did my preseason rankings, I had them actually ranked second in the American League East, right behind the Red Sox. But you look at the Yankees right now, they are 7-4. They're on a 6-game winning streak, and they have yet to lose at home this season. I know it's still early. It's only been 2 weeks. But, yes, I think they will challenge Boston and Baltimore if they can keep this up. I actually predicted them to finish with 85 wins this season, and that's pretty good. Brian Cashman added some pieces actually before the year, so I don't think they're going to be as active at the deadline this season. They brought in Chris Carter from Milwaukee. They also brought in Matt Holliday, and these are 2 veteran guys that know how to hit, and they did it in the National League. Of course, for them, their strength is their bullpen, and it has been. They brought back Aroldis Chapman after a short stint with the Cubs. They have Dylan Betances, who to me is the best reliever in the game. And then, of course, they also have other pieces in there like Tyler Clippard and Adam Warren, who could also be a spot starter if somebody goes down at the back end of that rotation. But, yes, like I said, Brian Cashman brought in some big pieces. I look at Gary Sanchez right now. He is out with a grade 1 right bicep strain, I believe is what they're calling it. And they're 4th in the American League in batting, even without Gary Sanchez at 251. And it's interesting enough because right now leading the way offensively for them have been 2 guys you would not have thought of. Chase Headley, who is the leader of that team in batting, and Ronald Torreyes, who only started the team because Didi Gregorius is on the DL. But the Yankees are doing some very interesting stuff, one of the more enigmatic teams in the American League. But if they can keep it up, I do see them finishing possibly second in that division.
Now, a lot of people before the season picked the Boston Red Sox to run away with this division. Yesterday, Hanley Ramirez avoided just a big-time injury. He was limping off the field on Sunday. Doesn't look like it's going to be anything too serious. So what's really going on in Boston right now?
I love the Red Sox and what they've been able to do. I have them actually picked, as we spoke about last week on Happy Hour, as my World Series winner right now over the Cubs. I do like what they've been able to do, and the fact that Hanley Ramirez is going to be playing first, because they also have another guy in Mitch Moreland that they brought in who is a very interesting piece. Moreland is a big pick now in the absence of David Ortiz. He provides good pop from the left side of the plate. You know, he can also play first base, like I said, good clubhouse guys. He can help the young guys like Andrew Benintendi and Mookie Betts and everybody in the youth movement right there in Boston. But I think that this is the most competitive team, along with the American League West. Pablo Sandoval is another guy that's very interesting in Boston. His average is down right now. He's batting only 143, and that's low for a career 286 hitter. But he's 30 years old, and he has been able to slim down a little bit. He got healthy over the offseason. He's listed at about 255 pounds, but he has gotten off to a great start, and I think he wants to prove to everybody with his 3 home runs and 9 RBI so far this season that he is here to stay in Boston, and he's going to be a big piece in that infield if Boston wants to get back and win that World Series.
Alfredo, is this the most competitive and compelling division in baseball? I know we talked about the AL or the NL Central being kind of flipped on its ear, also the AL Central, but realistically with Boston and New York, is this the most compelling and competitive division in baseball?
I think it's a tie. I really do, Barry, because you have the American League West, who's also very competitive. Right now I have Houston, Texas, and Seattle all in the mix to possibly win that division. And as good as the Angels have been, and of course they're not going to be as bad as they were last year, they have a chance as a dark horse to compete. So that's a 4 out of 5 teams right there. And in the American League East, only maybe the Tampa Bay Rays, I feel, will finish under 500 because we talked about how good Baltimore and Boston and the Yankees, and of course the Toronto Blue Jays, I think, are going to get back to where they are. I don't think that they should panic with this 2-10 start. It's just everything's been hitting them at once, you know. But yes, very competitive division 1 through 4, as well as in the American League West.
Josh is commenting on Facebook, commenting on Ryan's little gallivant down to Chicago this week, saying take the money and run. I agree.
Sure.
Yeah, take the money and run from any Cubs fan. Gadget saying last time the Yankees were 7-0 at home to start the season was 1998, and they won the World Series. Hashtag Yankees are back.
That's a Buster only stat there.
It's a Buster only stat. So we'll see what happens when it comes to the Yankees. But I want to move our talk to the NL East.
Okay.
The Washington Nationals, despite some pitching woes, are we still looking at the Washington Nationals being the team to beat in that division? And is Bryce Harper, does he have the opportunity to win his MVP and get his $400 million contract?
Well, to start off, to answer your first question, yes, I do believe the Nationals will win this division. They're off to a 7-5 start right now, but I think that this team can run away and win about 91 games. I feel that they're going to do this in such a fashion that Dusty Baker, I think, is my front runner to win the National League Manager of the Year award. They have had some pitching woes, but it's been mostly out of their bullpen. They have the 14th best ERA, which if you look in the National League, that's second to last right now at 4.70. But when you have a rotation with guys like Scherzer, Strasburg, and Tanner Roark back there, you're going to be fine. I think it's just their closing situation is something that needs to be messed with a little bit. Blake Trinan started there at the beginning of the year because he was doing well in spring training, but I think that they're going to give an opportunity maybe to Sean Kelly, maybe to the young Coda Glover too. So when they get their back end of the bullpen situation fixed up, I do think that the Nationals are going to go ahead and win this division. And to answer your second question about them, the hardest thing for me in spring training was to pick who was going to win the National League MVP. No, I don't think it's going to be Bryce Harper. I do think that he is going to have a bounce back here. Harper, of course, last season, he hit 243, but he had 86 RBI. He hit 24 home runs. And to most guys, that's a fantastic year. It was just a down season for him. I don't think he's going to get that $400 million contract that he's wanting. But I do think that if he does win the MVP, it'll be just slightly over Chris Bryant, who won it last year. I think he's poised to do it again this year.
Oh, another Cub. Anyway.
No.
So
not a Cub fan, just love Chris Bryant.
Understandable.
Yeah, this past week, the Marlins actually had 2 walk-off wins. They won a 16-inning game back on Thursday, and then yesterday, an exciting one where the guy got thrown out at the plate in the bottom of the 9th, and then next batter hits the walk-off shot there. And they're really starting to make a little noise in that NL East. What has been working for them? Like, what is their secret?
Well, like you said, they're off to a great start, Ryan, but they're also 7-5. I don't have them pegged to finish any higher than third, though. When you have a long marathon like the Major League season is, you have the Nationals and the Mets ahead of them who should finish in front in the National League East 1 and 2. But their secret right now has been their depth. I mean, they've been able to get in guys in that infield and play as well as some of their starters would be. You have a guy at third base right now, Martin Prado, who's injured, but Derek Dietrich has stepped up nicely. Same with the shortstop situation with Echeverria out. You've got a guy in JT Riddle who hit a walk-off home run the other day, made his Major League debut. He's playing very well. and they have one of the best managers in the game. I love Don Mattingly and what he was able to do with the Dodgers, and now what he's doing in South Florida. Of course, also their closer that nobody talks about, A.J. Ramos. He is crazy good. So I think those are their three biggest things right now after the first 2 weeks of the season.
You had mentioned the Mets, Alfredo, and they always seem to be a middle-of-the-pack type team. Can they finally break through this year and be that playoff team? Who can they count on offensively besides Yoenis Cespedes? And do they need to add that fourth starter besides Syndergaard, DeGrom, and Harvey in order to make it to that playoff spot, maybe the wild card or even the division?
Well, they were in the World Series 2 years ago, losing to the Royals. And then, of course, last year they were in the wild card playoffs. So, yes, I think they are a wild card team. They're going to win 86 games roughly this year. They must have production, though, to be winners from their infield. Jose Reyes has to have a good year, like he did when he won the NL batting championship some years ago with them. Neil Walker has to play well. Asdrubal Cabrera has to continue to be a red-hot hitter. Lucas Duda as well. And, of course, they have that plethora of outfield that's very good for Terry Collins right now. Also, Jeurys Familia, when he comes back, he needs to nail down that closer's role. Of course, he is out right now because of that suspension that he had to start the season. They can add some guys, but I really do think they need to look no further than people in their farm system. Of course, you have guys that could be that fourth and fifth starter. Zach Wheeler, Robert Gesellman, Seth Lugo when he comes back from the injury. He's got a great curveball. You have a guy in Steven Matz who could be an ace on many other squads. And then they also have another young guy who they could rely on in the minor leagues who's playing at AAA right now, a guy called Josh Smoker, who could be a good lefty specialist if the Mets are going to make a run to try to pick up another wild card spot this year in the National League.
That's a baseball name. That is a baseball name. Sure. Love that name.
Josh Smoker.
Josh Smoker.
And he's got a terrific fastball, too.
All right. I'd like to remind you guys, if any final questions for Alfredo here, go ahead and drop them in the comments below in the Facebook page here. We're going to talk down to Atlanta. They just opened their new stadium, SunTrust Park. They lost 5 in a row, and then they bounced back, winning 4 after that. Who are the real Braves?
Well, Ryan, the real Braves, I think, are a team that are rebuilding, but they are on the rise. I don't think they're going to finish any higher than 4th, though, because of the teams that we have aforementionedly spoken of. Undefeated at SunTrust Park, like you said, which is really interesting because an anomaly last year, they were 31-50 at Turner Field. And the only reason why those numbers don't seem as bad is because they did start to play better in the second half. They were abysmally bad. I think they had fewer than 10 wins in the first half of the year at Turner Field. So I'm sure they're glad they're in their new surroundings now. They are not counting on Bartolo Colon to lead them to the playoffs. Of course, they are not a team that will make it into the postseason this year, but I did say that they are on the rise. I think a guy like Bartolo Colon and maybe another veteran like R.A. Dickey was at it there. They will help out a young rotation led by Julio Teheran. They have, of course, Matt Whistler. They have Aaron Blair, who also came over with Dansby Swanson in the Shelby Miller trade. So I believe that these veterans that they've been able to bring in are going to help their youth movement and their starters rise up in that rotation and in the bullpen, but not get them to the playoffs, at least not this year.
And finally, bringing up the rear, the Philadelphia Phillies, they are so offensively challenged right now. What can they do, and how good is their farm system and their future in this franchise?
Well, I can tell you what they can do, and they can play defense like it's nobody's business. I mean, they are the top team in fielding right now, 2 weeks in. They have committed just 2 errors in 446 total chances. That's a lot. They have great defenders, Odubel Herrera, Cesar Hernandez, Freddie Galvis. All of these guys can play defense like nobody else. And, of course, they can also strike out a lot of guys. I mean, their rotation is very good. They have Vince Velasquez, who can strike out a lot of guys. Jared Eichhoff is another guy, Aaron Nola. So they have plenty of arms out there. And you talk about their farm system. I think they've got one of the top 5 probably farm systems in all of Major League Baseball. They're not going to be a playoff team this year, but in the future, look for this team to be dominant, kind of like they were about a decade ago when they won the World Series in 2008. They've got a guy down in the minor leagues in J.P. Crawford who is going to be an outstanding shortstop. Their first overall round draft pick in the outfielder, Mickey Moniak, is going to be well. Jorge Alfaro, a power-hitting catcher who showed signs of stardom when he was playing in the WBC for Team Columbia. He was one of their offensive leaders down there, and he will also in the future. They have Roman Quinn, Nick Williams, all of these guys, Mark Appel, very interesting guys down in that Philly minor league system. So if you get a chance to go to Lehigh Valley this season, go and check out this AAA team because they are very fun to watch. And although they're not going to be very good this year, 2018, 2019, watch for the Phillies to potentially be a dark horse in the NL East.
Are they the Iron Pigs?
They are the Iron Picks.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I got one.
There you go.
Alfredo, before we let you go, one last prediction.
Yep.
Cubs, Brewers,
Yes,
just for my own edification. I'm a big Brewer fan. We're located in Milwaukee. Cubs are struggling right now, coming off a 3-game sweep from the Pirates. Brewers are playing really well, won 5 out of 6 on the road. How do you see that series playing out the next couple days?
Well, it's very difficult to actually look at a series and say, well, they're going to play 3, so who's going to win? But, I did see Milwaukee play well this weekend. They really lowered that good ERA that those Cincinnati Reds had going into the weekend, and they played very well. They can score runs. I mean, the Milwaukee Brewers are a team that Craig Counsell is an offensive-minded guy, and I think when they brought him in to take over for that team, that they will have guys stepping up. Domingo Santana is an outstanding guy who not a lot of people know about. Orlando Arcia as well. And that was one of the reasons why they could get rid of a guy like Scooter Gennett, who is playing well in Cincinnati. But, of course, the Cubs are always going to be a hard team. But Ryan Braun is still the face of that franchise, and you've got good guys in that starting rotation. So the Milwaukee Brewers are certainly a team to keep an eye on, not for a playoff run, but certainly they can play spoilers. And it'll be an interesting series to watch this week against the Cubs.
Alfredo Muente, thank you so much for joining us, our MLB Insider. If we want to follow you on Twitter, where can we go?
Yes. Well, yes, you can find me on Twitter at Alfredo_Muente. And then, of course, if you want to read my baseball blogs, you can go on Blogger and find me there at AlfredoMuenteblogspot.com.
All right, Alfredo, good stuff. We will be talking to you down the road and talking a lot of baseball. Great information as always. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful evening in Milwaukee.
All right, Alfredo Muente joining us live on location from Universal Studios in Orlando. Great stuff as always. Yeah, he's big timing us now, calling us from vacation. But hey, we give him credit for taking time out of his busy day and Harry Potter Park to come on with us. And the NL and the AL East, fascinating divisions. We're hopeful we're going to be talking about the AL and NL Central next week and talking about the topsy-turvy world that they have going on right now. But one thing we want to get to is our new segment that we came up with, and it's called Fair or Foul. It's kind of like a buy or sell situation. It's kind of a hit or miss type thing. Yeah. I'm going to give you 3 topics. You're going to give me 3 topics, and we're going to discuss whether or not these things are fair, or they're going to happen, or they're foul. They're just kind of out of bounds, and they're not really going to. I don't know I don't want to use the word happen again because I don't want to repeat myself, but they're not really going to be solidified. So the first one I want to get to you, fair or foul, Ryan. The St. Louis Cardinals will turn it around and they will make the playoffs. Fair or foul?
Very foul.
Why do you say that?
I do not believe that the St. Louis Cardinals will make the playoffs. I believe that they're off to too rough of a start. Doesn't help kind of with the morale. Doesn't help with the record, obviously. But they just don't seem like they have the parts this year to get it done. I don't think Mike Matheny's going to get that team at least even to a wild card spot, even the second wild card spot. Yeah. There's too much parity going on right now. A lot of teams in the mix that I can see that are more sustainable than the St. Louis Cardinals this year. So I do not believe they will make the playoffs.
Interesting.
They won't be this bad the entire season, but they won't make the playoffs.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. Now for you,
okay.
My first one is a New York Yankee going to lead the American League in home runs this season? You got some good names.
Such as Aaron Hicks? I don't see Aaron Hicks doing it. Who?
Aaron Judge.
Aaron Judge, yeah.
Greg Bird, Gary Sanchez.
Gary Sanchez has to – Chase Headley maybe. Gary Sanchez has to stay healthy. Gary Sanchez is not one of those guys that's going to lead the league.
There's a couple home runs last night, so that's why I asked the question.
I get it, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, hey, what about Trey Mancini? What about, this guy? What about that guy? What about Chris Davis? He's off to a hot start in Oakland, former Brewer, by the way. I don't see a New York Yankee being in the top of the home runs list. I see a guy obviously Mike Trout has the capabilities of doing that. I also see George Springer having the capabilities of maintaining a healthy lead in the home runs department. But I don't see a New York Yankee in the top. I don't even see a New York Yankee in the top in RBIs or batting average either. I think they're just going to be a very consistent offense. I don't think they're going to have really that one superstar that stands out like an A-Rod or Derek Jeter or anybody like that. I think it's just going to be a culmination of a conglomerate of people. So I don't really see it. I see more of a Mike Trout or a George Springer. Fair or foul, Ryan Braun will be a member of the Dodgers before July.
fair. Definitely going to be. I can see this happening so fast.
Even though he's the face of the Brewers franchise right now.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe Brewers, he is face of the franchise, but there's bigger issues than having a face of the franchise.
What did they get for him?
They good prospects down there in L.A. One name that sticks out, it's kind of a high asking price, but Cody Bellinger. He is their top outfield prospect down there. I actually played against him in high school, and he is, yeah, I did.
As our producer saying, well, pin a rose on your nose.
He obviously was the better one, but he is.
No.
Yeah.
He's coming on the show to host next week.
Yeah. But anyway, real good baseball player. He's just top-rated prospect through all the different publications over there, and outfielder for outfielder, I think. Okay. Would be good. So definitely for the future as well.
And Josh agrees with me, saying Springer then Trout going to be the home run champions of the AL East. Danielle says Ryan.
Yep, that's me.
That is you. I don't know who Danielle is, but hey, how you doing?
Worker over at UWM.
Oh, okay.
All right, next question I got for you, Barry, is there should be a stat for a relief pitcher throwing a scoreless inning after the 7th. Now, Buster Olney, it was Nate Silver, actually, for 538, said that there should be a stat called the goose egg if you throw a complete scoreless inning after the 7th in a clutch situation. Give those middle relief pitchers some love.
Well, you already have holds. You already have...
The hold's not an official major league
official.
stat.
Oh, so you're talking official major league
Yes.
stat. No, you don't need one. You already have so many stats. The middle relievers are there because, one, either they don't have the stamina to be a starter, or two, they don't have the speed to be a closer. So they're kind of in the middle. They can't help it that that's where they are. That's where they end up, and so they don't get some love. It's a thankless job. Being a middle reliever is a thankless job. I know all about having thankless jobs. I'm a teacher. Okay, that's a thankless job. So, you just got to kind of take the good with the bad. Unfortunately, they don't have any stats. They don't have any stats for teachers as far as, this guy.
Awards.
I'm not getting a Golden Apple Award anytime soon. I swear too much. No, I'm just kidding. But it's one of those things where you just got to do your job, and hopefully you'll get some recognition. You have some middle relievers. I mean, middle relievers don't usually make the All-Star game either. Should we make a special All-Star slot for middle relievers? No. I mean, you go based on your performance, and if you're good enough to be a closer, to be a starter, then you're good enough. But if you're a middle reliever, that's all you are. You just got to stick with that. You just got to be happy with that, and happy that you're in the major leagues. Josh saying, I agree the Brewers should move Braun this year as a part of rebuilding process. The Dodgers make sense. Last one for you.
Yep.
James Paxton, Seattle pitcher, will give up more runs than the Blue Jays' total wins this week. Blue Jays have 2 games before he makes his next start. If they win their 2, they could have 4 wins. So will he give up more than 4 runs in his next start?
That's a tough one. It's more of a probability type of thing. I'm more focused on how many wins the Blue Jays are going to have. And I think I am going to say James Paxton gives up more runs.
Oh, wow.
Because the Blue Jays aren't going to win too many games.
No, I don't think so either.
Is the reasoning. Not because James Paxton is going to throw a horrible game giving up a bunch of runs. It's because the Blue Jays aren't going to win.
Very, very crafty.
Now, my final question for you is, Eric Thames, will he homer in his 5th consecutive game here tonight? Last 4 games, he's hit at least 1 home run.
Is the wind blowing out to right field? That's what I got to know. I got to know. You got to give me a forecast.
I don't know the weather, but Wrigley Field, Windy City.
Yep. Well, it really doesn't matter because the guy can just hammer the ball. If you saw his home run yesterday, oh my goodness, that went halfway up the right center field bleachers in Cincinnati. I'm going to say he does homer in his 5th consecutive game. He is on a tear. He's seeing the ball really well. I'm not just saying that because I'm a homer. I'm saying that because I see something in him. He's brought his power numbers from Korea, and he seems to be the real deal. He's relishing all the starts that he gets here in the major leagues, and I think it's going to continue. And I think he's really going to be that X factor for the Brewers, and I think he's going to homer in his 5th straight game tonight. So that was
There it
Fair or
is.
Foul. There it is, our new segment, and we appreciate you joining us on that segment as well. We appreciate you joining us here inside the park. We are going to get going, and we're going to take another week off. We're going to let you guys enjoy the Major League Baseball week, and we are going to be back to talk about it next week, Monday from 5 to 6 Central Time. And we appreciate all your comments and posts on Facebook. A reminder to check out our YouTube channel and subscribe to that. Check out our website at brewsports.net. As always, make sure you tune into Morning Brew and Halftime, as well as a couple of our specialty shows like Pick Six, Double Dribble, and, of course, Inside the Park. So for Ryan Thies, I'm Barry Nelson saying so long. Enjoy your week. We will talk to you once again next week, Monday, on Inside the Park.